She was humiliated and told to serve coffee, but 10 minutes later, Lena Hayes turned the tables in a way no one could have imagined. She was humiliated and told to serve coffee, but 10 minutes later, Lena Hayes turned the tables in a way no one could have imagined. While suit-clad executives looked at her with disdain, she was silently preparing a move that would forever transform a billion-dollar empire. What happened in that boardroom would change not just her life, but rewrite the rules of corporate power. On a stifling Monday morning, New York City's financial district gleamed under the relentless sun as rushed executives crossed the polished lobby of the Omnicorp headquarters in Diamond Tower. Among them, a young black woman walked with quiet determination, holding a worn leather folder that clashed with the building's ostentatious luxury. Lena Hayes discreetly adjusted the collar of her plain suit, the best she could afford after months of saving, and took a deep breath, trying to calm her pounding heart. This wasn't just another day. This was the day that could change her entire professional trajectory. The looks she received while walking across the marble floor were a mix of indifference and shallow curiosity. No one there imagined that the 29-year-old woman, daughter of a housemaid and raised in Harlem Heights, carried in her folder both an MBA from Harvard and a restructuring plan that could save the company from a financial crisis brewing behind the scenes. "Miss Hayes," the receptionist called with a rehearsed smile, "28th floor, main boardroom. They're waiting for you." Lena nodded and headed to the panoramic elevator. As she ascended, she gazed at the city stretching like a maze of glass and concrete. She had grown up looking at those buildings from afar, dreaming of one day being part of that world. Now she was here, but she knew the real battle was only beginning. The elevator doors opened to a sleek hallway. At the end, through frosted glass doors, she could see silhouettes gesturing. The board members, all white, all heirs of fortunes or executives from the same elite schools. None of them had faced the obstacles she had to overcome to get here. Lena straightened her back, lifted her chin, and walked toward the room. Her face revealed none of the emotional storm she carried: determination, fear, pride, and the unwavering belief that no matter what happened in the next few minutes, she would not let them underestimate her. In the middle of a heated discussion about multi-million-dollar strategies, the CEO, Victor Sterling, slammed his empty cup on the table and barked without looking her way, "Black coffee and make it quick!" Muffled chuckles echoed around the room. Lena stood still for a moment, her eyes fixed on the man who couldn't even be bothered to look at her. She had just presented a detailed report on next quarter's financial projections, but apparently to Victor and the others, she was nothing more than a secretary. Her heart pounded, but she merely smiled faintly, picked up the cup, and walked out, leaving them fully convinced she was just another invisible staff member. As she walked down the mirrored corridor, her reflection followed her. Neat suit, hair pulled into a tight bun, genuine leather case, Harvard honors graduate, fluent in 4 languages, and a resume that would make any headhunter drool. But in that room full of middle-aged men, she was just the coffee girl. In the break room, Lena took a deep breath while the water boiled. This wasn't the first time it had happened, but today it stung more. She'd been hired 3 months earlier as Deputy Chief Financial Officer, yet rarely could finish a sentence in meetings without being interrupted. She made the coffee strong and unsweetened, just the way Victor liked it, a detail she had memorized, as she did with every important piece of data. Back in the boardroom, the discussion had grown more intense. Numbers were being thrown around, strategies debated passionately. But something was off. The projections they were relying on completely contradicted the report she had submitted. If they went down that road, the company would lose millions. She quietly placed the coffee in front of Victor, who didn't even thank her, and returned to her seat. She discreetly opened her laptop and began typing, preparing for the right moment. No one noticed when she received an email marked urgent. No one saw her quickly read it, her eyes widening just slightly. And certainly no one suspected that while Victor sipped his hot coffee, Lena had just received the notification that would change everything. The board had made their decision, and in 10 minutes, that room would become the stage for a turning point those men would never forget. As she walked down the hallway with the tray in her hands, Lena felt the weight of every humiliation piling like invisible bricks on her shoulders. It wasn't just the coffee she carried. It was decades of broken expectations and condescending looks. Raised in Harlem Heights, she knew intimately the bitter taste of being underestimated. Since childhood, Lena had learned she'd have to work 2 or 3 times harder just to be noticed. The image of her mother, Dona Clara, never left her mind. Education is the one inheritance no one can take from you, Clara always said. It was in those long nights studying by candlelight that Lena made her silent vow. One day she would change not just her own fate, but the story of people like her mother. She graduated top of her class in business, won a full scholarship for a master's degree, taught herself foreign languages. Every certificate, every promotion, every step forward was not just her victory. It belonged to Dona Clara, and even to the absent father who never believed in her. And now, fully qualified, postgraduate, with international experience, here she was, serving coffee. The dark liquid shook dangerously in the cup as her thoughts boiled. It wasn't anger she felt. It was something deeper, crystallized determination. Each step down that mirrored hallway echoed as a reminder. She had not come this far to be mistaken for the help. This will be the last coffee I ever serve, Lena promised herself, the last before they see who I really am. The family lawyer's announcement shook the boardroom like a bombshell. With a steady, deliberate voice, the family lawyer declared, Lena Hayes, the legitimate daughter of Robert Maxwell, now holds 40% of Omnicorp's shares, as established in a duly registered will. A sepulchral silence fell over the room. Then, like a wave, the uproar began. Victor Sterling, pale, gripped the armrests of his chair until his knuckles turned white. "This is outrageous! A fraud!" shouted Arthur Jenkins. The lawyer remained impassive. "All DNA tests have been conducted. The documentation is in order. There is no room for contestation." Lena observed everything calmly with vindication and unwavering determination. Victor, finally finding his voice, tried to maintain composure. "This changes nothing. I'm still the CEO." The lawyer cleared his throat. "Actually, Mr. Sterling, with 40% of the shares, Miss Hayes has enough voting power to call for a board vote, and considering the alliances her father built." The fate of Omnicorp now hung in the air. Unfazed, Lena walked to the front of the room. "I have concrete ideas for the future of this company and the right to present them," she said firmly, meeting every surprised face with confidence. She had spent sleepless nights preparing this presentation. "Omnicorp needs to reinvent itself," she began, projecting detailed graphs. "Our competitors are advancing in sustainable technology while we continue to bet on outdated models." She proposed expansion into 5 emerging markets, starting with Southeast Asia and North Africa, backed by impressive growth projections. "This is not charity," she explained. "It's a long-term market strategy." Her plan included a complete overhaul of the research and development department, with investments in diverse talent and partnerships with universities. "Diversity isn't just a nice word for annual reports," she stated, locking eyes with Arthur. "It's applied innovation." She presented a clear, detailed implementation timeline. "This isn't some impossible dream," she concluded. "It's an actionable plan that can transform Omnicorp into the leader it was always meant to be." Victor let out a forced laugh. "You really think you can lead this company just because you inherited some shares from your daddy? This isn't a college project, sweetheart. We're talking about billions of dollars and thousands of jobs." Lena took a deep breath and rose slowly. Funny you should mention that, Victor. I didn't just inherit shares. I inherited the responsibility to make this legacy grow, and I won't let outdated prejudice determine our path. She stepped closer to the screen. While you were busy underestimating me, I was studying every financial report from this company for the past 5 years. And you know what I discovered? Your conservative leadership cost us market share in 3 strategic sectors. Victor turned even paler. But I'm not here to point fingers at the past, Lena continued, opening a new slide. I'm here to show the path forward. And if anyone in this room still doubts my capabilities, I suggest you look at the numbers I've prepared, not at the color of my skin or my gender. Now the silence was one of respectful surprise. So if I may continue without further interruptions, Lena said, taking her seat again. She explained every detail of her plan, connecting seemingly unrelated data points. If we implement this restructuring in Q4, we'll reduce operational costs by 17% while increasing production capacity, and all without mass layoffs. Board advisor Eleanor Vance raised a concern. These numbers are ambitious. How can we be sure this isn't just wishful thinking? Lena smiled. I launched a reduced pilot at the Boston branch over the past 2 months. Here are the audited results. The data was indisputable. Lena had tested her theory. Our competitors are focused on oversaturated markets while completely ignoring the potential of the southern and western regions of the U.S., where we already have infrastructure and can scale up with minimal investment. With each argument, more heads began to nod in agreement. Their strategic blind spot had been colossal. When she concluded with a full implementation roadmap, the room fell into a revealing silence. Any questions? Lena asked. The chairman of the board, Dr. Caldwell, finally spoke. I believe Ms. Hayes has just answered all our questions and raised a few new ones about the competence of our current leadership. Lena didn't just have technical expertise. She had the strategic vision and the courage that had been missing for years. When the secretary announced the voting results, the room fell into absolute silence before it erupted in applause. Lena had won, 9 votes to 1. The only hand not raised in her favor was Victor's. He remained seated, pale, the empire slipping through his fingers. By near unanimous decision of the board, declared Anthony Miller, the chairman, I hereby name Lena Hayes as the new Chief Executive Officer of Omnicorp. The board members stood, clapping enthusiastically, including Martha Sullivan, the longest-serving member. Lena noticed Victor abruptly standing and leaving the room without a word. She felt a flicker of compassion, but knew he had dug his own grave. Outside the building, a crowd of journalists had already gathered. Flashes went off as she stepped out for her first official statement. Ms. Hayes, how does it feel to be the first black female CEO of one of the largest tech companies in the United States? I feel honored and aware of the responsibility. But today is not about breaking racial barriers. It's about respected competence and a new chapter for Omnicorp. Her phone wouldn't stop vibrating. New black CEO makes history at billion-dollar American firm. From coffee trade to boardroom, the astonishing rise of Lena Hayes. As she gave interviews, Lena caught sight of Victor slipping out the back, avoiding the press. For a moment, their eyes met. The man who once ordered her to serve coffee now stared at her as his greatest threat. Lena stepped onto the makeshift stage. Good morning, everyone, she began, her voice clear. I never imagined I'd be here today, especially after what happened yesterday. Many of you have seen me walking these halls for years, but few ever truly saw me. Choked with emotion, Lena spoke about the structural prejudice she had faced, the closed doors. Yesterday, I was ordered to serve coffee, she declared, her voice gaining strength. Today, I lead this company's future. Merit and courage must never be judged by someone's appearance. The audience gave her a standing ovation. In the back of the room, Lena spotted Dona Clara, her mother, tears in her eyes and pride in her smile. My leadership will be marked by inclusion and by valuing talent no matter where it comes from. I'm not here for revenge. I'm here for transformation. This company has the potential to be more than a financial giant. It can be a symbol of equity and innovation across the American market. In the days that followed, Lena wasted no time. She announced Victor's immediate dismissal. "Consider it corporate karma," she said. The news spread like wildfire. She restructured the board. Maya Johnson, a brilliant black economist, joined as CFO. Marcus Thorne, a tech innovation expert from Lena's own community, was brought in for technology. And Sofia Rodriguez took charge of marketing. "We're not just changing faces, we're changing perspectives," Lena explained. "Different lived experiences bring different solutions." She launched the Tomorrow's Talent Program, an ambitious initiative to identify and mentor young talents from underprivileged American communities. "How many geniuses have we lost because they never had a chance?" Lena asked investors. "We can't afford to waste intelligence due to social barriers." The first 30 participants were selected from thousands, immediately impacting their communities. Company stock rose 17% in the first quarter under Lena's leadership. Market analysts, once skeptical, praised her innovative approach. Few admitted it openly, but Lena was now living proof that diversity is a real competitive advantage. The internal resistance was brutal. Former directors loyal to Victor plotted in the shadows, sabotaging meetings, altering projections. "She's only here because of her skin color," some whispered. Lena chose a single strategy: undeniable results. When they tried to sabotage a product launch, she worked day and night with her loyal team, surpassing all expectations. Profits rose 27% in Q1. "Say whatever you want about me," Lena told them in a meeting, "but you can't argue with results." Gradually, the atmosphere changed. Employees who once held back now felt empowered to speak. The toxic culture began to dissolve. Problematic directors isolated themselves. Some resigned. In 6 months, Lena didn't just survive the attacks. She transformed the company into a space where respect and innovation thrived alongside financial performance. True leadership, Lena reflected, isn't imposed by force. It's earned through results no one can deny. Lena's journey spread beyond Omnicorp's walls, making headlines across the U.S. Her name appeared on the covers of Forbes and Time. Journalists highlighted not only her business achievements, but the symbolism of her story. A black woman from humble beginnings who claimed her place in a world long dominated by privileged white men. Lena's inbox overflowed with messages from young people nationwide inspired by her story. She created a mentorship and scholarship program within Omnicorp focused on underserved youth. "It's not enough to break the glass ceiling," she said. "You have to reach back and pull others through." Even with her face on magazine covers, Lena remained grounded. She greeted Mr. Henderson, the doorman, and chatted with Miss Davies, the janitor. Her leadership carried an authenticity that inspired genuine loyalty. On her desk, between financial reports, sat a simple pen holder made from a coffee cup, the very same cup Victor handed her that fateful day, now preserved in resin. "This cup taught me the most valuable lesson of my career," she'd explain. "That real leadership isn't about titles or the power to give orders, it's about the willingness to serve the collective." Under her leadership, the company implemented reverse mentorship programs and active listening initiatives. "Serving coffee doesn't diminish anyone," she said. "What does is believing that some roles are less worthy than others." Lena's story spread as a symbol of transformation. Companies around the world began studying Omnicorp's management model. Even the fiercest critics had to swallow their words in the face of the company's awards and record-breaking performance. Victor, meanwhile, faded into obscurity. The market had changed. Executives like him had become toxic relics of the past. At a conference in San Francisco, Lena stepped on stage to receive yet another award. She spotted a young black woman serving coffee. She paused her speech and called her to the stage. "This young woman may be serving coffee today, but tomorrow she could be standing where I am. That was me once, and it will be many others. Talent has no color, gender, or social class." The audience gave her a standing ovation. That night, back in her office, Lena reflected on her journey. The billion-dollar empire she now led was only the beginning. Her true legacy would be opening doors for the overlooked, building a new model of leadership for the 21st century. The girl who was once humiliated and told to serve coffee was now the source of inspiration for thousands, and that, more than any financial report, was her greatest victory. Victor appeared at Lena's office door unannounced. "May I come in?" he asked, with a humility he had never shown before. Lena nodded. "I came to apologize," Victor said. "I've spent these past months reflecting on the man I used to be." "And what conclusions did you reach?" Lena asked. "I never understood what power truly meant," he admitted. "I thought it was about control, domination. But you showed all of us that true leadership is about service, inspiration, and lifting those around you." Lena glanced at the coffee cup on her desk, now a sleek mug bearing the company's new logo. "You know, Victor," she said with a calm smile, "that coffee changed my life, not because of the drink itself, but because of what it represented. It was the moment I decided no one else would define my limits again." He could see her visibly moved. "This company is unrecognizable now, not just in the numbers, but in the culture," he said. "We turned hierarchy into collaboration. We launched mentorships for young black tech talent. We tripled the number of women in leadership." Victor looked out the window at the new building next door, the future headquarters of Omnicorp's Educational Foundation. "You've built something far greater than a billion-dollar empire," he acknowledged. "You've built a legacy." Lena picked up the old coffee cup, turning it gently between her fingers. "This cup reminds me every day that true revolutions begin with small acts of courage, and they don't end within the walls of this company." As Victor left, Lena stood quietly, contemplating the city skyline. That coffee had never just been about her. It was about every person who had ever been underestimated and who, inspired by her story, now knew they could rewrite their own destiny.